When the game Stellar Blade was announced to the public in 2024, there was an outrage among the political left. They were appalled and offended by the design of the lead character, Eve. What could be so offensive about a character design? Was it a racist depiction of a stereotype? No, it wasn't. Rather, she was beautiful. That's it. In fact, despite her character design being quite bland, she was perfect. The highest idealization of the feminine form. Sure, she was sexualized, but since when did the left had a problem with pornography? According to them, it was a harmful and unrealistic portrayal of the female form. Of course, this is all nonsense. Eve's body was actually modeled based off of a scan of a real Korean model, and her face was designed by the developers for the game. And she proved to be extremely popular, videos and trailers of the game going viral over social media.
Okay, unequip. Yeah, what happens if I unequip it?
With many pre-ordering the game just off her appearance alone. The question is, why was there such a visceral negative reaction from the left towards Eve? The reason why resonates to the very core of leftist ideology, and that reason is ironically very revealing as to what they truly believe. Why is it that most woke media in general, especially in the West, has such ugly characters? And conversely, why is it that those on the left celebrate ugliness and repulse at beauty? It doesn't have to do with representing varying body types and faces or being inclusive. If they were inclusive, why such a strong reaction against the characters in Stellar Blade? Shouldn't we include all body types, races and faces? Many will argue that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This is true to an extent. One does develop tastes that may be unique to them. One who might find something beautiful, another might find not so beautiful. However, there are some things we consider objectively ugly, like dog excrement. No one has a photograph proudly presented on their mantle of their dog's feces unless you are a psychopath. However, proving objective beauty is a little more difficult. But in reality, it's quite simple because it's intuitive. Shakespeare's works are considered masterpieces even to this day, universally loved despite being made over 400 years ago. So clearly beauty isn't bound by time. People visit cultural sites far from their birthplace and listen to music from different cultures and countries. So clearly beauty isn't bound by culture or identity. We know that objectively attractive people exist because a majority of people express positive emotions when they see them. Of course, people have different tastes, but when there is overlap of when a large group of people find something beautiful, that overlap demonstrates that that thing is objectively beautiful. If aesthetic relativism were true, then this overlap of tastes would merely be coincidence, which seems extremely unlikely. Research in neuroscience has shown that certain forms of beauty trigger similar neurological responses in most humans. Studies using brain imaging techniques have found that particular landscapes, artworks, and faces universally evoke positive reactions in the brain's reward centers. This consistency in human response suggests that there is an objective element to what is considered beautiful. Clearly, there is a tangible consensus that that thing is beautiful. Now that we have established that there is objective beauty, however elusive but true, we must ask why woke people hate it. Yes, it's true. Woke people hate things that are objectively beautiful, especially if they originate from white people. It's the reason why all their media features and worships ugliness. It is at the core of their values. Wokeism, and leftism in general, stems from a mental illness that drives them to hate beauty and embrace ugliness. Take a look at this billboard. If you had the misfortune of having eyeballs at this moment, you would see that it is the most hideous thing you've ever witnessed. When I said this was a billboard, I meant it. I saw this eldritch entity proudly advertised on Olympic Boulevard in Los Angeles. Read the caption, "Trans people are sacred." This thing, this work of art, is sacred. The artist seemingly has gone out of their way to make it as ugly as possible. The mask crumpled under the chin, the hairy chasms, awful colors, and hideous form. The left would want you to not just to tolerate such a grotesque creature, but to worship it. Transgenderism, the act of fulfilling one's sick autogynephilia fetish and attempting to validate it as a real identity by means of Frankenstein-esque self-mutilation, dangerous drug use, and the brutal colonization and appropriation of femininity and real biological women as a whole, is one of the most degenerate and ugliest things to ever exist. It only makes sense why the left would call transgenderism sacred. Why did the artist make the painting so painful to look at? What was the agenda here? It goes back to what we were saying before. The left idolizes ugliness. Why? Shouldn't they value beauty like any reasonable person does? The problem stems from the inherent mental illness of leftism, which comes from an inferiority complex, a jealousy towards objective beauty, and an insecurity from a mentally disturbed people who hate themselves. Almost without fail, someone who is an ardent supporter of wokeism are extremely hideous themselves. In fact, studies have shown that on average, conservatives are more attractive than leftists. Not only that, but leftists on average report a much higher rate of mental illness than conservatives. They are more depressed, miserable, anxious, narcissistic, and report a wide range of mental disorders at a much higher rate than conservatives. Like a bluehead or Ouroboros, leftism is a mental illness, and from mental illness stems leftism. These people are broken. Reason was never in their lexicon to begin with, only misguided compassion, but there is a much deeper, fundamental reason that lies at the very foundation of leftism that will be revealed later. Postmodernist art is another example of leftists idolizing the ugly. They revel in the deconstruction of what was built rather than building what is new. We are all familiar to the usual terrible pieces of modern art, but recently I discovered one that was especially poignant. During my recent visit to the Huntington Gardens, I discovered that they actually have the famous Blue Boy painting on display in their art gallery. I was quite anticipated to see the painting, and sure enough I do eventually find it. But after appreciating the immaculate work of artistry and beauty, I turn around only to see this monstrosity of a thing. Now, there is nothing wrong with remixing art, but I felt personally offended at the placement of this painting, facing directly in opposition to the original masterpiece. The accompanying description read like the usual blatantly racist woke word salad claiming how it was about black power or some polycock like that. Of course, this is an example of the woke's desire to deconstruct, appropriate, colonize, and utterly decimate white and Western art, music, literature, culture, and civilization as a whole. God forbid a painting done by a white European man be appreciated in a vacuum without having to be juxtaposed by something trying to deconstruct it for the sake of their insecurities and inferiority complex. The black painter, referring the original work done by Thomas Gainsborough, said, "Since I felt somewhat removed from the imagery personally and culturally, I took a scientific approach and had an aesthetic fascination with these paintings. That distance gave me a removed freedom. Later I started thinking about issues of desire, objectification and fantasy in portraiture and, of course, colonialism. Clearly he can't see anything beyond skin color, so he had to deconstruct it and reconstruct it in his own image. Of course, the subject is also offensive to look at, also being quite ugly. I prefer the original. This deconstruction is the MO of postmodernist art. Now, it is interesting when an artist makes a painting that makes us question the definition of art, but the novelty tends to wear off fast once you've seen the 4,849th postmodernist work of art that asks the same exact question. Yeah, we get it. You really got us questioning what art is. Now, can we go back and see Rembrandt before I forget what art is in the first place? Postmodernist art also reveals the true agenda of wokeism and leftist ideology, which I have teased for, the third time already. Leftists will argue that your experience of objective beauty is all socially constructed, that you have been socially engineered and trained like Pavlov's dog to enjoy what evil Western society deems beautiful. But of course, reality contradicts this. You would know that no amount of social engineering can make you feel the way you feel when you see the countenance of a perfectly beautiful woman, the way you feel when you hike up a mountain and take in the breathtaking sights of nature, the birth of your first child, the wedding of your best friend, or when you have a brilliant idea, or when you see your favorite painting in person. That is one of the reasons why ugliness is so pervasive in their art. They lack the beauty or lack the appreciation of said beauty in their own lives. The reaction of something beautiful is radically different from a left-leaning person to a right-leaning person. If each of them saw, say, a beautiful figure, such as Eve from Stella Blade, or even a real-life, objectively beautiful human, the leftist will naturally be repulsed, jealous, and spout coping mechanisms like, such a body is unrealistic, it makes people have eating disorders, it makes fat people insecure. Meanwhile, the right-leaning person would appreciate the beauty of it, and say that I would like to achieve that level of beauty through hard work, wisdom and discipline, and even if I could never achieve or create such beauty, I still appreciate the divine gift of beauty or talent to make such beauty that this person has, and I am thankful that they are sharing it with the rest of the world. Of course, this is not to say that leftists can't create beautiful art. They have, and they can. They have shown they have a tremendous potential of beauty within themselves, proving that there is an inherent beauty in all of us, no matter how repressed. However, those people who are leftists and create great art will still reject the idea of objective beauty. What I am saying is that postmodernism and its modern ideological regression, wokeism, is on a bloody crusade to destroy objective beauty for the rest of us, an impossible task. That is the process of wokeism. Wokeism, especially in Western media, is the act of putting something that is intentionally ugly in front of normal people, then forcing them to perceive it as something beautiful, so that their own perception of what is beautiful will be destroyed. But this is mostly impossible because objective beauty is biologically ingrained, and if that person resists, they are deemed racist, homophobic, and close-minded. That is why there is such a contrast in Western versus Eastern video games, movies, and TV shows. Eastern societies are not in a desperate scramble to destroy notions of beauty. They are still ethnically homogeneous. They have pride in their race and heritage. They are right-leaning societies not dominated with DEI or ESG, or creators that want to cater to a so-called modern audience. They can still appreciate beauty. In fact, it's why anime girls are such a phenomenon in the Western world. They are designed to be feminine and perfectly beautiful. They are the archetypal ideal woman. In contrast, third-wave feminism has taught women to abandon their femininity and become men, take on masculine traits which turned them into sexless creatures. Finding an ugly anime girl is like finding a functioning brain cell in Joe Biden's brain. It's nearly impossible. Turns out men like beautiful women. Even women like beautiful women. The process of wokeism doesn't just apply to women, it applies to everything. From writing, music, art, the technical specifications of the plot of a story, it is a mind virus that infects and destroys everything. Take the writing in the Marvel slop film The Marvels. The terrible writing wasn't by accident, in fact it was on purpose. There was a line in the movie that goes,
Uh-oh. Monica, you gotta fly.
No.
Black girl magic.
The bad writing is entirely intentional. Postmodernism, leftism, and wokeism all stem from the same goal of destroying all hierarchy. Good writing and bad writing means that there is a tangible, universal hierarchy. If they can blur the lines between good writing and bad writing, they can dismantle the hierarchy. In fact, that's what the left does with everything. They blur lines and destroy all boundaries. They blur line between man and women, between citizen and illegal alien, between law-abiding citizen and criminal, and truth and lies. Anything that is good in this world, it must be destroyed, because the woke mob can't enjoy anything good in life. And that brings us to the core reason why the left hates beauty. It implies that there is an inherent hierarchy of worth. The concept of an inherent hierarchy, in respect to anything, is fundamentally contradictory to what all of leftism stands for. We all know it to be true, but the left will deny it at all costs. They hate it because beauty is not equal. It is unevenly distributed among the masses, implying an inherent inequality which is very triggering to leftists. That is why they were so repulsed at Eve from Stellar Blade. Her design implies that there is an objective beauty that can be validated by millions of people and is exceptional. Also because straight white men enjoyed it, that is why ugliness is at the very core of the leftist aesthetic. That is the desperate goal of the postmodernist movement, an attempt to dismantle the hierarchy. They hate the idea that one can improve themselves and the world around them from within and without the help of the state. And if that's not triggering enough, I believe that objective beauty is a reflection of the divine. So that means that there is a measurable innate hierarchy of divine beauty that is unevenly distributed among humanity, and that contradicts everything leftists stand for. If you are offended by this video, that means it must have hit a nerve. Something must have resonated deep within your soul. But for some of you, there is still hope to exit the abyssal mind virus. You have tremendous potential within you to change for the better. Even though your entire life you were gaslit by the powers that be into thinking that you are a helpless victim to the capitalist system and that you are a slave to a deterministic universe where free will does not exist. You are not a slave. The only person that can make you change is you. Others can help you through the process, but it is up to you to ultimately decide whether you want to live the best life you can possibly live. Exercise. Get adequate sleep. Watch what you eat. Embrace spirituality in your life. Overcome your addictions. Become disciplined, set goals, cultivate friendships, have a long-term partner, bear children, and try to fight your animalistic desires. Even if you are truly a victim of something beyond your control, it is your destiny to overcome what you can control, however small. Because our existence is not random chance. Life has meaning. Free will does exist. Your life has purpose. And once you've finally climbed that seemingly impossible mountain, you will experience true beauty. Thank you for watching.